anybody ever been in that position where they feel, maybe not a mechanic, but any repair or service, that they feel that they were paid too much for it? Never? Never?
No.
Do I have to put on mariachi music and start doing a dance to wake you guys up? All right, well, I have. I'll speak to myself. Good preaching, Reverend Claudia. Can you see it? Going to pay the $500 bill, and he says, oh, we had all these incidentals. It's $950. Do you feel like loving him? Do you feel like being patient, kind, tolerant, slow to anger? No, no. Okay, so we're back. We're back in the room. Okay, I got some nods. So how do we start? We may start by believing the very best about this man. Perhaps we don't have the full story. Did he deliberately cheat us? Do we know that for sure? Or is it possible because he was a less skilled mechanic that it took longer than it would have otherwise? See, that's all the difference in the world right then, because I can sort of kind of have sympathy for someone who did their very best. In fact, Jen and I had this happen to us several years ago. The guy did his best. He was just really thorough. But part of being really thorough meant that he charged so much more than someone else. It was easier to have love for that guy. We have to be ever mindful that it's not the situation that causes us the most stress. It's our perception of the situation, always and all the time, right? Okay, but what if we know for sure that the guy cheated us? We have it on good authority, we weren't cheated. This is the way this man operates. So quite possibly the man is ill. He has some kind of a physical or emotional condition where he can no longer tell right from wrong. We know that that is not the truth. We know that's not the truth of this person, of any of us, certainly not this mechanic. It's a transient manifestation. If we want to bring healing to this particular situation, we will find another way of seeing. Look, the real work here in Unity, as far as I'm concerned, in the New Thought Movement, is to mold us, is to expand our vision. It's not just here to come in and feel good. Although we hope with time, the more we meditate, the more we get directed from God, we will be uplifted, we will be inspired. But this message clearly is, come out of the comfort zone, expand your circle, force out your faculty of love. That's what Jesus is saying. This is not supposed to feel good. If it feels good, I'm doing something wrong in the preaching up here. This is what he's telling us. Love the unlovable. Car mechanics alike. And by the way, this doesn't mean that we have to continue visiting this mechanic if divine wisdom dictates otherwise. This is simply to bring healing. And as a matter of fact, in the story that I told to Jen and I, we must have spent, what, $4,000 or $5,000 with this guy on 2 different cars. We don't go to him anymore. Do I still think of him warmly? I absolutely do. Did he do the best he can? I believe that. I bet Jen believes that too. But we don't go to him anymore. That's divine wisdom. It wasn't right for us. He's still in business, so other people go. You see? Therefore, there was nothing wrong with the guy. It was a situation that didn't fit us. He's still a child of God, and he still deserves love. And if I would have been bitter and angry, what would that have done for me? It would have closed me off for the times where I was bitter and angry. Who's hurt there? He's not hurt. He's not hurt. I'm hurt. And all the people I'm around are hurt. So let's try perhaps a more challenging situation, one that maybe we can all relate to. Emotional and physical illness. Could this not be something that persistently harasses us? Has anybody ever been ill? And they get up and they think about it. And they think about it. And through lunch, you're thinking about it. And when you go to sleep, you're thinking about it. If that isn't persistent harassing, I don't know what is. What are we to do with this type of situation if we are to accept and to put into practice what Jesus is trying to teach us here? Well, what do we know about illness, metaphysically speaking? We mentioned it before. It's not real in the light of the absolute truth. Now, it's real in the light of the relative truth, those things that change. But those things do, as is their definition, have the potential to change and become altered over time. Right? We're sick, we're not sick. There's some kind of a healing that happens. We know that what we resist persists. Remember the fourth talk was resist not evil was a component of that talk. It was turn the other cheek, but resist not evil was in there. So we know fighting it, denying it, all those types of things don't work. They don't work to bring healing. So what does? If you've ever suffered from depression, let's use that. I'm sure everybody can relate to that, either in a family member or themselves. I can certainly. I had quite the bout of it last year. What's the answer? Well, whether it's you or another person, we know that a state of depression is not a natural state for us. We don't inherit depression, spiritually speaking. We inherit what's of God. Depression is not of God. God is all good, all powerful, all knowing. Not depression, though. We go back to the truth. And I'm talking about absolute truth, capital T. We go back to what the truth is. Perhaps, and this is what I did, many of you know, I had quite the physical health challenge in the year. And one of the first things I did, besides panicking and being in fear and all that kind of stuff, was to create a metaphysical mind treatment, which is really just another name for an affirmation. And I said that affirmation, I can recite it to you in 5 different languages, I said it so much. Backwards, forwards, any way you want, up or down. It was my constant companion. Why? Not to try to fool myself, I knew what I was feeling. To state the truth, to look beyond the physical to the truth. It can't be just words on a page. Any successful affirmation has to be rooted in truth. This was, check. And we have to say it with emotion. We have to bring up our passion for this. And if we don't believe it, we back up and we question, what is our definition of God? Do we believe that God is all powerful? What is our relationship to God? Do we believe that we're a child of God? Because if we believe those two things, then we can say this affirmation, hook, line, and sinker with all the passion. Our Father, God, is perfect. All good, all love, all power, all knowledge. Right? The absolute. The absolute. We as divine offspring, therefore, are perfect in potential form. So I say potential because probably none of us is manifesting perfection today. That will likely take a lot of work in many lifetimes. But we are identifying more and more each day with our spiritual selves. The more important parts of ourselves, our Christ self, our God self. This is where we're coming from. We no longer have to align and identify with our demonstrated shortcomings, but instead know the truth about ourselves. We are 100% divine and therefore 100% perfect in potential form. It takes that level of consciousness along with the passion that I talked about before. We must have passion. People say, my affirmations don't work. Well, how much energy and passion and emotion do we have behind? Here's where emotion works for the good. Do you really believe? Do you know how amazing this stuff is? If we really believe it and we really take it to heart, change for the better can happen. And that impacts you, but guess what? You have a part to play. That impacts all of us. Everybody in your lives. There was an old saying that I used to love, we change, they change. We change, we're energetic beings. We have the power to impact other people for the better. What a marvelous thing we have here. That's it. And each of us in this church and everywhere on earth is capable of manifesting just that. Remember who you are. Remember the stock that you come from.